So I think we should start. First of
Yes.
all, you're looking wonderful, honey.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
It's so important to just boost each
Yes.
other. So I think
It's
that's
so important.
it's so important, And you
Yeah.
told me the other day, Louise, stop slandering yourself. So, to everybody who's listening, stop slandering yourself. We need to
But
just love ourselves.
yeah, but you have to explain what that means, slandering.
Yeah, we're getting back to that later. First of all, we
No,
would like
no,
to
no. But
say
if you're saying stop slandering yourself, nobody's gonna understand what that means. That's like a Danish, Swedish, English mix up.
English. No, but that's also in the Buddhism. I think that we should not, if you told me that, my son told me that, stop saying bad things to yourself. Say good
Yeah.
things to yourself instead.
Yeah.
So that's how simple it is. But of course, it's difficult to change that pattern or that habit
Yes.
if you all the time are critical. But let's pause that and get back to that later on, because now, first of all, we would like to say welcome to everybody joining us. And just to do a little short recap, you are tapping into Awakening 101, actually with Pernilla and Louise. Pernilla, the creator and the founder of Awakening 101.
Hi.
Hello. How nice. Here we are again.
Here we are
At
again. 6:30 in the morning.
6:30 in the morning. That's for you, because the people joining in for the first time, just to let you know that Pernilla is based in the US. It's 6:30, but it's night. You have light.
Yeah, it's that's spring.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. And Louise is in Denmark.
Yeah. And it's 12:30. So
yeah,
it's
so there you go.
different.
Yeah.
So,
anything can be done with a cup of coffee though, right?
Of course. I have mine somewhere. Here it is, actually. So and it's a very great day here today, but the sun is shining when we meet each other. Yes. And that's what awakening is. My chair just went down like this.
Yeah, I saw that.
A little bit too heavy. No, but that's what Awakening 101 is all about, right?
What? That we drink coffee?
No, but to find well, that could be some of it, but no, but to find the sun, right? To find our inner sunshine. We can't becoming aware and awake if we don't stop up and reflect and start to bring the light inside, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say to find the inner sunshine, because that's a little cheesy to me, but yes, the I call them awakening moments instead.
Yeah.
Like, what are the moments that are those moments that make you feel present, connected, forgiving, loving, and I think that that's an important point, because if you switch into like the gear of like, I'm going to be like that the whole time, it doesn't work. So if you find moments, right? Like the people talk about, oh, you can't drink coffee, but if you have like one cup of coffee a day, and that cup is, you fully embrace it with love, that's to me, and I don't know what the sages would say, but that's an awakening moment.
But
laughing.
Could that cup of coffee also be awakening, even if you do it with awareness, but just to I need another cup of coffee. I do it with awareness, but you maybe not embrace it 100%, but you're still aware that you're doing it, right? No, but that's what I mean. Like embracing doesn't. That's what I want to come to. Embracing is not. It's not like it's perfect, right?
No, there's no perfection.
No.
I mean, that's what I guess. I mean, if you go back, it's not perfect, right? If you go back to what I said in the beginning, if you I think that a lot of people think about awakening as like some sort of like all-encompassing thing. Like I'm fully awake all the time, which doesn't actually work. So that's where like this idea of perfection comes in. So, we have moments, and maybe we say at the beginning of a journey, we have one moment a week where we're like, oh, something feels different inside. But then like after 25 years, like for you and me, then there's like maybe a few more moments like throughout the day. And sometimes those moments become the backdrop to your day. So the moments become so many that they actually fill into your whole life, and they support your whole life. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Phew.
No, but definitely. And I think it's so, no, but I think it's so interesting because you say, as you said, it's these moments of awakening. And I want us to stop a little bit and dig a little bit deeper into that, because what I sometimes can feel is that, okay, we're in this journey of being awakening and becoming more aware, but sometimes and I think when you open that door, you can't really go back. But sometimes to not be awake can sometimes seems easier to be awake.
Yeah.
So back to listen to some of your moments that gradually got you into this journey and that made you becoming more and more awake, and even so awake today that you can actually create a huge library of so much wisdom and content that is useful for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the moments that were the awakening moments 25, 30 years ago are moments that I actually didn't know that they were at the time, right? It was only now that I'm sitting down and I write about things and I like reflect on things that I realize like, oh, so we had, I did this retreat with Sally Kempton in 2006. It was a year-long course. We did 3 retreats in that year. It was called the Transformational Journey. And in one of the retreats, we did what we call a spiritual timeline. And that was the first time that I sort of started understanding what those moments had been. So it was a timeline. We put moments into that timeline. And up until then, I mean,
moments that was awakening for you, that had changed.
Yes.
Can you give an example?
Yes, exactly. And so for me, I would say that the first things that now we're talking about like being a kid or, a teenager. The first things for me were definitely being around horses, right? And that's not just one moment. That was like a whole time of my life where, because of the horses, and again, I didn't know this at the time, but this is when I reflected on it later on. I'm like, why was it so important to me? And why did I keep going back to the barn every single day for my entire childhood? And for me, it was because the horses are present. Like horses don't think about future, past. They munch in their hay, they just hang out, and they just happy to see you and appreciate any attention that you give them. They're all loving, all forgiving, super connected, and very present at all times, right?
I just have to say that you picked the horses that was the most horrible horse in the whole stable.
Yes, because I felt that way about myself, right?
Very interesting.
So the horse that
I just want to, for people who, we've been knowing each other since we were 4 years old, but Pernilla, we went horseback riding together. And of course, Pernilla picked that horse that was kicking like no one dared to go into.
Yeah.
Remember?
And she was Annabelle. She was the one that I chose because she was all loving to me. She was happy to see me every day. And, I loved her. She loved me. It was like, it was very, so that time of my life, I think, looking back, opened the door to a feeling of something that was, like what I call it, awakening, right? Because the feeling of awakening, which is deeply connected, a feeling of belonging. I mean, we're talking about like the kindergarten version, we're not talking about what Ramana Maharshi calls awakening. It's
but
very different.
I just want to, so we understand this, because when you say the feeling of awakening, so what happened with the connection that you had with the horse was a feeling of connection, and you would say that feeling of connection was a statement of awakening, but you were not conscious about that awakening at that moment.
No, of course not. Because I was like, this was a time like I was like 7 to 13 years old,
Mm.
right? But I mean, I have a horse now that I've like really thought about what he means to me, especially in the last few months when we're talking about connection and forgiveness. And he is my biggest teacher in that realm because he makes me feel connected, and he's ultimately all forgiving always, right? So let's go back. So that was like the beginning, the awakening moments at the barn. And then cut to, I think I was about 16 or 17, because you remember, like at 14, I started drinking and I stopped going to the barn. And I really don't know why I turned away from that. I think, it was like hormones and ego. Like, this is no fun anymore, and boys are cute, and let's party. And, so I was working at this little kiosk in Stockholm after school. And I would spend my time when I was waiting for customers. It was one of those with like a little, you had a window that you had to open, and people would come and like buy like tickets for the subway and stuff in Sankt Eriksplan.
Oh my God.
And yeah. And I what I did when I worked there, I would clean all my little jobs that I had. I worked in a museum, and I just was cleaning when I was bored. And then I would read porn magazines. And then
did you say porn magazine? I mean,
yeah,
did you think it was just sliding away?
Yeah. So I would clean, I would eat Swedish candy, and I would read porn magazines. And this was because I had like a little back desk where I would sit waiting for people. And during that time, I read, I think we talked about this in the first episode, Siddhartha by Herman Hesse.
Yeah.
So between the porn magazines and Siddhartha, that was my.
But we just need to. Did Siddhartha come in the porn magazine? I mean, we need to sort this a little bit out, because I think people can be confused. I'm confused. We have the candy, we have the cleaning, we have the porn magazine, and all of a sudden we had Siddhartha.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, right? See, that's the beauty of this process, is that it doesn't have to come from.
Can you remember what kind of magazine, what picture were you looking at?
No, I think I would read the stories. I don't know. Because it was also a magazine stand. It was like your classical tobacco and European tobacco.
Yeah.
Candy, some coffee, magazines. People would buy them before they went into the subway, because it was right next to the subway. So that's what I did. I was like 16, 17. And then I read Siddhartha there, with the porn magazines. So I remember reading it and understand. First, I probably read it and was like, what the hell are they talking about? There's this guy, and he has all this money, and then he goes and sits under a tree, and it's about the Buddha. And I could not understand why he would sit on the tree, and why would you say no to all these things? But I think after the second time of reading it, that's when I was like, oh, there's obviously something else happening. And that's what I've discovered too with books throughout the years, that it's not only the words in the books that are shifting the way I feel. It's the energy behind whoever was writing this book. And Herman Hesse is, he's written a lot of books, but he obviously had to come from a very deep place to write about this, right? But then, I was young and I was living in Stockholm. And of course, I don't know even how I found this book, because, who read that in the 80s?
Yeah, I know.
This was probably like 1988 that I read that book. So it's sort of like, but it's stuck in me. And then I sort of like, put it to the side. And, after that, I think that's when we moved to, I left and went to Italy for a year. And what I remember awakening moment.
You were hanging out with Hare Krishna as well, didn't you? Didn't you go to Fridhemsplan and had Govinda?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't. That was not cool. Because that was super important to me, to be cool. I mean, I didn't even know that it was important to me. Again, looking back, I was like, well, if it was cheesy, then I wouldn't do it. And like hanging out with the Hare Krishna on Fridhemsplan, that's not cool. So no, I wouldn't do that. Do you hang
But
out with the Hare Krishnas?
they locked down. They're not there any longer. So, but back to you moving. We know we talked a little bit about it in the first episode, but I want to stay with the moments of awakening and how you can look back of that today and see that this was actually some moments of enlightenment, you can say, that was talking to your that was talking to the bigger self, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could say that, like, I mean, for me, I believe that it was sort of part of the plan, some sort of divine plan that I was going to, stumble across these things. But you could say that, what if I hadn't read that book? Or what if I didn't have the horses? Or, would it have happened a different way? Maybe, but I think also, if you look back between you and me, Louise, we both always were on the search for something. We weren't really super satisfied with what we had. We have lots of friends that might have they seemed fine just rolling forward in life. And most people are. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you went to US for a year, and you were searching, we traveled, we tried different things. I mean, it's just part of the spirit that you're born this way, right? So, I don't know, you pick up what sort of the larger self delivers. And maybe it's so that the larger self delivers things, and if you pick them up, they give you more.
They give you more. But would you say, if now we this kind of connection or these moments, how will they be present today for you? Like, how will they, how will the awakening process be part of your daily life today?
Whew, that's a big jump, my friend.
That's a big
so
jump, but we need to get back we need to anchor the thing, because I think that some people maybe don't have the ability to look back because life could be too painful, and a healing journey, it's also a process of awakening, but we can all start in different. I think it's so important to just understand that there is not only one way, you know what I mean? So
yes.
Today we're living in a world which is pretty challenged in many ways, and it's war in Europe, and it's life is, so to giving some spiritual injection or some awakening hope to someone who's listening, who wants to, what can I find to connect with today? What can I, how are you using this path today?
Well, I would say there's two conversations there. There is somebody who doesn't have a practice to begin with, who might be struggling, and sort of but has an inkling that they want to sort of feel connected to something more sacred in their lives.
If not, they wouldn't listen to this.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you're not going to listen to this. I mean, for me, there's certain things that I would probably do. And I mean, of course, if you're living in the Ukraine right now, like, it's just awful, right? So it feels sometimes when you talk about these things, it's like, so, during COVID, like, but so what if, you have no, there's so many things that can happen that are like obstacles that it just feels useless, all this stuff in a way. And I've certainly felt like that when I was using drugs. That's like, what's the point? Jesus. So, and that's always the conundrum, I think. Like, what does it really matter? If something really, really tragic happens, I think it might be hard to come up with what are we going to learn from this? But, then you have on the flip side of that is, I don't know if you've read this Man's Search for Meaning, the Viktor Frankl.
No.
You have to read that because it's about he's a concentration camp prisoner, and he just goes into like a full surrender about the awfulness and the terror of his life, and it's incredible, but I don't know if I would be able to do that, or that you would be able to do that. Like, this is a highly evolved human being that says, okay, I'm going to surrender to this. This is what God or the great self or the universe had in store for me, and I'm surrendering. So let's just, that's what I want to preface all these conversations with, that, because I feel like it's fine to sit here and sort of giggle about, like, porn magazines and Siddhartha, but there's, like, if I was living in Ukraine and they're bombing my house every day, like, I don't, it just feels a little light in a way. And we can't go into that because you and I feel like I don't have the credentials to talk about that specifically, right? But let's say.
But can I? Because I'm just thinking that, this thought about the tsunami, that of course everything affects us, and knowing that I'm not part of that war, but the things that I can create value for in my life here will be an energy that I can send. You know what I mean? Like, it's. I mean, being awake the awakening journey doesn't mean that you're going to sit on a pink cloud and be happy.
No.
It's
absolutely not.
The awakening journey opens up for awareness to many more possibilities of choices. When you're on your autopilot, you know there is no choices because you're just driving forward. But I think that, so even if we can't really relate to how horrible it must be to be in a country with starvation or with war, everything, I think it's important to know that the journey you make will have an effect. Right, out in the bigger.
That's so important. That's perfect, because I'm so glad you brought that. I mean, that's how you and I, we keep going, right? Because like, why do I literally spend every waking hour writing, working on my website, planning for this moment together with you this morning? I mean, it's because I have this like deep urge to give back from what I felt like my journey was delivered somehow, or it was shown to me how to like go through this life. And now I'm actually in a place at 52 years old where I pretty much feel, normal and content throughout the day, which has never happened before. I mean,
not really 52 though. You're 51, right?
Whatever, 51, 52. But what I'm saying is that, like, this moment, this place I'm in now, it was more pain than happiness, for sure, or more trudging and figuring out and learning and starting again and trying and making mistakes. And, it was much more of all that stuff. But still, the awakening moments that I was giving throughout that time were enough to keep me going through that. Because I think that, like, as human beings, we all have this cellular idea of that there's something greater than ourselves. So even if the moments are small, they can help us keep going. Right? So if we say, what are some tidbits that we can do today? And let's say, I have a friend who's a mom. She just had a baby. And she's a very like evolved spiritual young woman, and she's struggling, because she has a baby, and it's tough in the beginning sometimes. Not everybody wakes up, has a baby and then come home and everything's great. So we're just talking about little things that she can do to make her day more sacred with her baby.
And what could that be?
Yeah. And so for me, like the things that, for example, at the beginning of COVID, when I was horribly depressed, like literally couldn't even make lunch for my kids, I started doing like a pranayama practice. And more important than that were the morning walks. Going out with my dog into the forest and feeling the outdoors. I mean, that's a very basic. We talked about this in the last episodes a lot.
The nature.
The nature thing. So I think if I had nothing, that's where I would start. Long walks. And then you can add things like I'm suggesting to my friend is like, if you have a pranayama practice or a mantra practice, add that into that. Because meditation is sort of, it's the last thing. Like you can't just like come from trauma and depression and sit down and meditate. It's not going to work.
No.
You have to prep. You have to start with many other things before you can get to that place. Like yoga is a perfect example. So that might be my second thing. Long walks, connecting with nature or the city that you live in, being outside, standing by a lake, standing by on the beach, just closing your eyes and taking moments where you feel just present, right? And then, I mean, for me now, I run instead of do yoga so much because, it is whatever. But running in yoga, running is because your breath, right? I thought about this yesterday. You're not doing official pranayama, but your breath is what makes running fill you up with something, right? Yoga is like, I'm reading a book right now from BKS Iyengar about how he basically was a sickly little child, and he was like one of 14 kids, and he was just not well. And then he started like in his teens doing a very, very like heavy duty practice of yoga, and it completely changed his life. And it just, to me, it's fascinating that a practice of the body can open you up to awakening. I mean, that's what yoga is all about, and that's why it's so incredible. Like
but
somehow,
I have to say, but that's what I think is so, that's why I think this can never be fake between you and me or whatever we say, because I think that whatever we have experienced with our body, and I can read as many books and be as thinking in my mind, but if I don't embody it, if I don't experience it on my own body, then it would not stay. That's what I think it's, and that's what you say. That's why yoga is so. That's why yoga is so really the true path to yourself, and also why it can be challenging for many people, because when you're getting a little bit too close and start feeling a little bit your body and becoming aware of the body and even what you maybe have done with your body, then it can be difficult to handle.
Yeah. But I think that for me, when you talk about embodiment and with your body, experiencing with my body, like I sort of zone out there. Because for me, the whole like experiencing life through the body, which is, yes, it's completely true what you're saying. And that's what Iyengar is saying too in his book. But for me, that's very hard. So I would say I go through life and experience with my self, like the limited, like the small self. It's not my body, right? But then again, there's lots of people that are much more connected to their body than maybe I am, right?
But why would you say you're not connected to your body? Because I really experience you connected to your body.
Yeah, maybe, and that's the thing. Like maybe, like intellectually, I just don't know that I am. But yes, I am, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, again, I wouldn't be able to be in a place of self-contentment, right?
No, exactly.
But for me, it took a long time, the body thing, because when you do as many drugs as I did, you you lose connection with your body. And I remember sitting there like hungover watching TV, because I watched like 10 hours of TV every day after I was out all night. I would never breathe below my collarbone.
No.
I was like, you know, but then I again, awakening moments. I do think that when I got sober and started yoga, which I did like, you know, rigorously for like 10 years in LA. I mean, that's another moment. You know, I didn't know that it was opening me up to something. I mean, I knew that it felt good to lie in Shavasana. So that's what I came back the next day. And it was the first thing where I was like, oh my God, I don't have to have like yada, 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 yada happening in my head all day long. I can lie there and just be like, oh, you know. So, okay. So now we're talking about, if you're a person, what are the gifts? What are the little things that you can do? We talked about walking. We talked about running. We talked about pranayama, connecting with nature. And again, walking in the cities, totally, you know, I did a lot of that. And then yoga. You know, yoga is so basic. And I love that it's become as big as it has. And I think that a lot of people do it, again, like people think that they're doing it maybe for their body, and, you know, you get great arms and all that stuff. But in the end, if you keep doing yoga, it's gonna affect you on a deep level. I remember going to a yoga workshop in Sweden, actually, with our dear friend Jennie Liljefors at Altromondo yoga in Stockholm. It was years ago, and she had like a little, I think, a beginner's workshop of some sort. And she started this part 2 or whatever it was, and she asked the class, she said, you know, what are you learning? Or like, what are some things that you might want to make a comment about in this first time together? And there was a woman who raised her hand, and it was clear that she had never done yoga before. And she said, I don't know what's happening, but it's as if a door has been opened.
Wow. Amazing.
And I, you know, walking through the doorway. And I just remember that so clearly, because it's exactly, and the fact that she was aware enough to know that it was a door that had been opened, that's incredible. You know, I never knew there was a damn door that was opened. You know, I just sort of went along. So those are the, you know, I don't want to go on, because it's like, if anybody that does any of those things that we just talked about are already having a moment each day where they feel something. It's like you, when you go down and you swim in this freezing cold water once a day.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. No, but I think that, you know, I mean, I remember you know, you still say, Louise, stop thinking, you're thinking too much, And of course it's, you know, when you are in periods of, you know, you're being challenged in your relationship or in your financials or with your kids or anything, of course it's, you know, the mind is just, you know, it's like a hurricane, you know, it's a, you know, and I think that to be able to master my mind, I really need to connect with my breath. And when I connect to my breath, I really feel my body. And when I have that moment in my body, but that's when I can disconnect with my mind. And it's not that my problems resolves, but that is my attitude towards the problems becomes a little bit, you know, lighter. You know, I know that, you know, we all have future problems, you know, and I think that I'm becoming more and more aware how I meet the attitude I'm having towards the challenges, you know, because they're going to be there. Even if I become even more awake, or I meditate more, I do even more yoga. I mean, life on life terms is pretty unfair and pretty much struggling sometimes, you know. So of course, that's what maybe we should just conclude this talk that we had, that if we can, by those things that you just said, if we can try to connect with ourselves, with our body, the body never lies, then we are, you know, it's a huge step on this journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will find, because I mean, it's it's only 6 degrees in the water right now, but it's the to go down there.
Celsius.
Yeah, Celsius, exactly. Exactly. What is that? What is that in your
It's like, I think it's, I can't do the math, but I think it's like 40 or something. So it's
like
0 is
100.
freezing. Yeah, it's cold. It's cold.
It's cold. It's
You
cold.
have to be a little bit sick in the head to go into the 6.
Going to the 6. Yeah, but and it becomes a little bit of a trend, I think, in the whole Nordic countries, actually. I think that,
Yeah.
it's, the southern part of Sweden, they've been doing it for a long time, and also here in Denmark. But, even up in Stockholm now, it becomes more and more small places like this where it's, and I think that it's good for people to start.
Well, I mean, you're just talking about another moment there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The cold water.
Mm.
I mean, I think it's for me, I can't, if it's freezing outside and freezing in the water, I can't, but there's something about that too, like the ocean and lakes and swimming and dipping has to do with the way we change the energy of our body and mind.
Mm.
And that's, I think, why people, especially during COVID, the whole Wim Hof craze came through, because you could do that in your cold shower at home.
Yeah.
You could do it in the ocean or wherever you were living. And a lot of people were doing it because it made them feel better right away.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I mean, my poor husband who's from here, from the US, he's like, what have you done to me with this cold plunges? And, it's like, I feel bad, but that's one of the other things. But I know that you said we should wrap this up, but
No, we should not wrap this. I just wanted to, so people.
But yeah, but I want to say that we should, and we're going to write this down right after. But the thing is that you said about the hurricane of your mind.
Yeah.
And sort of you breathe and you become the witness to that hurricane, right? And you become more like, through the breathing, you can feel your body. And then all of a sudden there's a little bit of distance, a little bit of pause between you and your challenges. This is, I think that we should, like, the next time or today or whatever, this is all about the surrender practice.
But
and
I was
sort of,
isn't that also, would you say that, because would you say, sorry to interrupt, but would you say that surrender, is there a little, because you mentioned in the beginning of this talk today, you mentioned both connection and forgiveness. And would you say that when you surrender, would that be a little bit of forgiveness into that surrender?
Yeah, so surrender is
in the wheel. So
of course, no,
yeah.
My
But
point
I
is
just want to mention to the people who are listening.
Yeah, it's an element of awakening 101. Yes, it's one of the most profound ones. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with the web page awakening101.com, you should definitely check it out. But there is a big wheel created by Pernilla, which has the element and the tools. So everything that we're discussing is like tapping in and out to these different things. And I think that, when Pernilla showed me this for the first time, and I have it up in my yoga studio, I think that it just gave me, nothing is static, because sometimes I really want it to be this way or this way or this way, but it's all organic. It's all like, it's like the planet in the universe. They're not just on different grades,
No, they move around. Yeah.
They move. And this is also, and I think that, we even, when you said the hurricane of the thoughts, taking a little distance, what actually, that's a self-reflection, right? It's, and that's also part in the wheel. So I think it's to get to know these tools and elements, make this even more fun. because it's supposed to also be, you know, an interesting and a fun journey. We're not, you know, we want to have fun in life, right? So you know, curiosity. No, but I mean, it's yeah.
So, okay, so let's just, surrender is the ultimate practice, right? And it's
what do you mean by that, with ultimate practice?
Because if you are surrendered, okay, and now we're not talking about, I'm going to just let this go here and there. Surrender is when you basically have come to a place, I fully surrendered as a person who has let go of most of their underlying triggers and emotions, right? So
that's where I am.
Yeah. Yes. So that's why surrender, when you say surrender and forgiveness, like how do they work together, right? If you have let go and surrendered the things that trigger you about, let's say, your husband, right? This is something that we work on. Let's say my husband doesn't do the dishes after dinner. I made dinner, but he didn't do the dishes. So I'm pissed about that. So then you start thinking about, like, at least for me, I'll think about, like, okay, he's and, you know, why doesn't he do this, XYZ, you know? So that used to, like, drive me crazy for years, right? And then one day I realized that, first of all, what good is it doing me to be upset with him every time we have dinner? Like every time afterwards, because he doesn't do this little thing, right? And then I found a place where I could just sort of like look at, or the sun is like right in my face, look at the feeling of anger, right? Let it come up and realize that it's about so much more than just the dishes, right? It's the times that I've been let down, or no, people aren't doing the things that I think they should be doing in return for the things that I do for them. And, you know, it's like you sit and you just say, where is this anger coming from? I mean, it's a long process, and we could talk about this for hours, but once you identify that it's the anger towards not getting maybe something in return, and it's the pride around that, that is the thing that you start getting angry about or resentful about. Once it comes up and I didn't act on it, right? I don't yell at him. I don't really activate it. Like, activating the resentments is like calling your friend and saying, my husband's a dick.
That's even worse than the F word. Oh God, I never heard it that. We're gonna say a long.
I'm just making an example. Because he didn't do the dishes, blah, blah, blah.
Is that what we call a Freudian slip?
Yeah.
Have you really surrendered?
Exactly. But once I'm like trying to get back to where we were, but once you recognize that, what it is, right? What is it within me that makes me angry? Then you can let it go, right? Then it has a life. The feeling has a life, and it comes to the surface. You can see it, and then it can be let go. Then, right? Then forgiveness is a piece of cake.
But I would, you know, I completely got it, you know, and I, you know, I even worked that with in my yoga therapy, and you gave me this wonderful book that I'm actually having here, Letting Go.
Oh, hold on a second.
I highly recommend this. I got this from Pernilla. Will not make your life easier, but much more fun. Oh, look at that! I love it. We're best friends. Look at this. But you know, I'm all of a sudden think, okay, 3 children, activities, work, full time. How will I have time to get this little time of reflection of what this emotion is coming from? You know what I mean? It's because when I'm in the, how can I say, when I'm in the emotion, when I'm in that feeling of anger or judgment, or I can stay in it and I don't act on it, but it's still there, and I don't always have the time to investigate it. You know what I mean? Like, and then I need to pass on to something else, and then I can, when I go to bed in the end of the day, I do a little moment of inventory and see, okay, maybe that. But if I then start tapping into that, then I'm going to be completely awake again. So I don't want to do too much that work before to sleep. But of course, my mind would think, Pernilla, is there not a shortcut?
Well, I think there is, actually.
But
I mean, not a serious
listen,
shortcut.
friends,
But
there is a shortcut.
yeah. For me, it's focusing on the breath coming in and out of my nose.
Mm.
So when I'm going about my day and things are happening and some things make me angry, I don't, it's hard for me to get angry these days, but let's say I'm
Upset,
frazzled, right? We're running late. People are asking me questions. I can't find something. We're all getting ready for school and I'm like sweating, and that's that's what I do. Because then if you're just and I know that it sounds like, what the hell are you talking about? But the breathing through the nose, and I read about this a lot during COVID, has an immediate effect on your nervous system.
You're breathing out also through the nose, right?
Yeah, everything's nose. And if I actually just take them, like, I don't even think about it anymore because I do it automatically now. It's like, and that's what sometimes people are like, why aren't you answering me? And I'm like, oh, I'm just breathing through my nose, So because I'll be just breathing.
So if it's silence in this podcast, it's because Pernilla is breathing in.
I'm so angry that I'm breathing through my nose. No, and then sometimes I'll balance it with feeling the bottom of my feet at the same time. So it's like a Libra scale. I mean, you're talking about that. You think that I feel connected to my body. I guess those things are.
It's probably a connection with your body. Yeah.
So, but those are the things that I do, because then you have to let go of the idea that you have to investigate.
Good.
Right. So
I mean, I like the idea of investigate, but we don't always have time to investigate.
No, exactly. So you have to be ready in the moment when you're about to blow. Right. You're in the security line at the airport. Right.
It's a very good.
And people are rude. I mean, especially now, like if you go through Newark Airport where I live, I mean, people are losing their minds. And I just did that. I had to go pick up my daughter. She was on a trip, and I had to go into the airport through the security to get her. And it took about an hour and a half just to get through the whole thing. And people were literally losing their mind with stress and grumpiness. And even the personnel, I mean, they're like, it's the end of their day. Everybody's rude, And I'm there, and this guy he couldn't find his hat on the band, coming out of the little. And I just was like literally like, and then I would move away from the crazy guy to the other side.
And
breathing. And then I would move to the other side because he was running back and forth from each of the sides. And I was just breathing over here, breathing over here, breathing over, and I also felt bad for him because he was clearly, he was having it was a lot. And they were, it was a tough day, but that's what I'm saying. So I don't know what I'm doing right then. I just start breathing.
But I think that's a great gift that you have given us of how there is a shortcut to well, actually, what you're doing is you're transforming the energy. You're transforming the energy through your breath. But
I would actually take it even more scientific than this. Transforming energy sounds very hokey. It doesn't sound like, but there's actually science behind. I mean, there was a book that came out. Oh God, what is this? It's called Breath by James something.
Yeah, I have it here.
Okay, fantastic.
It's called Breath. James Nestor, right?
Yeah, James Nestor, exactly.
Yeah. I have.
So, I mean, in that book,
he came to Copenhagen. I went to one of his workshops.
Oh, fantastic!
And he's a scientist. He's not even a yogi. He's nothing.
Exactly, and he explains that effect of the. And then there's another guy. He's actually Swedish. His name is Anders Olsson, I think.
Yeah, that he does it with.
Yeah. And I read his book too, and he's even more scientific. So
we're going to list these books in the podcast, so people, you don't have to rewind, and you're going to get all the books that we.
And I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like those two guys are both scientists. They're not yogis.
No.
And they were the one I read those, 3 years ago, those books, and that's when I started this practice of the no, without even thinking that I was doing. But that has helped me a lot. It's sort of the thing about like, oh boy, more fun. We talked about in the last few episodes. It's like a default setting now. And like, so let's say we're trying to get ready for school. Everybody's upset and somebody forgets something. We have to run upstairs. I'm sweating. When I get in the car, the moment we start driving, that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
But so from this, just not to forget that we were with surrender, and we were to forgiveness. So we just to follow up.
And but I guess if you want to sum it up, and surrender is going to be a whole, we're going to talk about that because we have to talk about the process of surrender and how to get it. And that will be its own episode. But
that's also the first step in the 12-step program, right?
Yeah, but I would say it's surrender light.
Yeah, of course, but someone maybe listening to this or where we were many years ago.
I mean, surrender, I would say, is the first three. First 3 steps. But okay, the breath through the nose is a moment of surrender. Because you don't
love that. That's a nice quote. Love it.
Because it's not. Yeah, because you're not going with your thoughts. You're not going with your mind. You're going with your breath. In that moment, instead of saying, oh God, why can't my children get ready on time? And why aren't they more prepared? And I should have done the dishes earlier and blah, 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 blah. Like instead of going with the mind, you go with the breath.
And in that surrender, the forgiveness comes.
Easy.
Let's see.
No, it's easy.
It's easy.
I'm not saying that like in a like sort of like lazy way, like it's easy. It takes a lot of work. No, I mean, it takes a lot of work. I was literally the angriest person that you'd ever met. In my first year of sobriety, I used the F word literally 3 times in a sentence.
Sounds like my son. Okay.
Okay. But anyway, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Because now we've been at an hour and we can go on and go on,
Yeah, no, but we're going to wrap it up. I think we're going to, the surrender, we're going to come back to the surrender. We're going to come back to also surrender in different layers and in different meanings. And I think that what we can take with us today, how we can use to not act out. And when we breathe in and out through the nose, that's our act of surrender. So let's try to use that. And then we went through a little bit of the connection. We went through the forgiveness. We're also going to come back to the forgiveness, right? Yeah. I mean, everything in this wheel. I mean, the tools and the elements are things that we're tapping in and out through the stories that we are talking about and trying to discover together, right?
Yeah, I love you.
I love you. So much love in the air.
Yeah,
you're looking wonderful, even more wonderful now than in the beginning. So
all right, sweetie,
we're gonna wrap up. you're gonna write all the books in the end, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I love you.
Hasta la vista, baby. Loves you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.